Good morning, students. Welcome back to your online business study class. And let's start the another instrument for raising funds today, and that will be debentures. Right? As we are talking about the sources of business finance, where we are discussing about the different sources by which we can arrange or by which we can manage finance or funds for our business. So debentures play also one of the very important role in these instruments. Debenture is basically a way by which we raise funds for the long term debt of capital. In the beginning of this chapter, I explained you that we required funds for our business for a short period of time, basically for our day-to-day operations of our business, which is also called as a working capital requirement, and for a long period of time also, where we required to invest money or funds for a fixed assets, right? So if we need to invest money or if we require money to raise for a long period of time, that time debentures play a very important role, or the instrument of debenture is mostly utilized there, right? So this is basically an instrument by which we are able to raise funds for any business for a long period of time. Now, when a company raises funds from issuing of debentures, they need to bear out a fixed rate of interest, right? Now if you issues or if a organization issue a company, or if a debentures are issued by a company, they need to acknowledge that company has a borrowed a certain amount of money. And how it is possible? This is possible that this money or borrowed amount will need to be repaid back with a promise at future date with a interest amount included here that. So the debenture holders are therefore termed as a creditor of the company. Why? Because the company need to repay them that amount on a specific date. Now when we talk about debentures as a long term raising funds for business, it's basically debenture holder are paid a fixed stated amount, because at the time where the debentures are issued, a certificate is given to the creditor, and in that certificate the fixed amount is written over there with including the interest amount and the maturity of the debentures also, right? So that is the written reason it is said that debenture is basically a source of raising long term funds where very less risk is there. Now the period of debentures are basically from 6 months or 1 year. Means the company can issue the debentures for raising funds for them for a long period of time, for a period of 6 months or a period of 1 year. Now if a debentures are directly issued to the public, it required that the issue will be rated by a credit rating agency like CRISIL. CRISIL is basically agency which used to rate out the debenture which are issued to the public. Now on the aspect of like why the CRISIL is rating these debentures, just to know, just to have a track record of the company, that whether the company who is issuing the debentures, what is their profitability conditions, what is the financial health of a company, what is their debt servicing capacity, are they are able to return the amount or not which is written into the debentures, what is the credit condition of the company, and what how much amount of risk can be included over there. Now when we talk about debentures, children, there are lots of different type of debentures are there. Like we can issue the debentures right from zero interest debentures also, which do not, zero interest is written there because the debenture which do not carry any expected rate of interest is called as zero interest debenture, which is very popular also from the recently year. Now let's see the advantage if a company is raising funds by the help of debenture. The first is that the people, those who prefer to a fixed income, it will be very good or very profitable for them, because in debentures the fixed amount will be given back to the debentures holder, so there is very less risk in that. So that become the first advantage of debentures. Second is that because debentures are fixed charge funds and do not participate in profit of the company, the people, those who are debentures holder of a company, cannot have any power of participating or managing the company or controlling the company. They are only going to be given a particular amount which is written into the debentures. Next is the issue of debenture is suitable in the situation when the sale and earning are relatively stable. A company whose sale and whose earnings are going to be stable for a long period of time and who has a past history कि उनके सेल और उनकी जो अर्निंग है नियर अबाउट स्टेबल ही आ रही है काफ़ी टाइम ईयर से. So it is very good or very suitable for those companies that they can go through with the option of debentures for issuing the funds. Next is, as debentures do not carry voting right, financing through debentures does not dilute control of equity shareholders on management. Now this is a very important point for debentures, and this advantage is from company side. Company side or organization side. Why? Because if you are raising funds by the help of giving equities shares, so what will happen? The people, those who will purchase the shares, will also become or will also have the ownership quality, right? They can also participate into the day-to-day operation of a management. They will have power of taking the decision, because equity share में क्या होता है, अगर हम इक्विटी को सोल्ड, शेयर्स को सोल्ड करके फंड्स रेज करते हैं तो हम ओनरशिप को क्या कर रहे हैं, स्प्रेड आउट करा रहे हैं, क्या यानी ओनरशिप को हम डिवाइड करा रहे हैं. सो इफ़ एनी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन इज़ देयर हु डज़ नॉट वांट टू डायलेट द कंट्रोल, यानी कोई ऑर्गेनाइजेशन अपने कंट्रोल को किसी दूसरे को नहीं डायलेट करना चाह रही, किसी दूसरे पे नहीं देना चाह रही पावर को, दैट टाइम डिवेंचर इज़ अ बेस्ट ऑप्शन टू कैरी आउट or to raise out funds, because in debentures case we are raising fund also and we are not dilating any control of the organization. Next is, financing through debenture is less costly as compared to the cost of preference or equity capital, as the interest payment on debenture is tax deductible. Now when we talk about debenture, one more advantage debenture has, that if we are raising funds from debentures, it is less costly also if we compare it to the cost of equity shareholders and preferential shareholders. Why? Because the amount of debenture is a amount of टैक्स डिडक्टेबल अमाउंट. टैक्स डिडक्टेबल अमाउंट का मतलब बेसिकली क्या होता है, जो अमाउंट होती है डिवेंचर्स के इंटरेस्ट की पेमेंट पे, वो क्या होती है, टैक्स से डिडक्ट हो जाती है, यानी प्रॉफिट से हमारा टैक्स क्या हो जाता है, डिडक्ट हो जाता है. नेक्स्ट इज लिमिटेशंस. what are the different disadvantage debenture is facing, or if we are raising funds through debentures, what are the different drawback which we have to face. So the first is, as fixed charge instrument, debentures put a permanent burden on the earning of a company. There is a greater risk when earning of the company fluctuate. This say that when we talk about debenture is a long term permanent source, right? It means हम लॉन्ग टर्म के लिए फंड्स तो रेज करते हैं डिवेंचर से, लेकिन जो हमें इसको रीपे करना पड़ता है दैट इज़ फिक्स्ड, नो मैटर द कंपनी इज गोइंग ऑन प्रॉफिट और लॉस, we need to pay out the debentures holder. So this what happened basically, this is basically a permanent burden on the earning of a company, यानी कंपनी के ऊपर एक बर्डन होता है ये, that no matter the fluctuation will occur into the company earning, but debenture holder need to be pay out or repay. Next is, in case of redeemable debentures, the company has to make provision for repayment on the specific date even during period of financial difficulties. This say that if a debenture is a type of redeemable debentures, अगर debentures redeemable debentures है, redeemable debentures का मतलब होता है जिसमें कि एक पर्टिकुलर डेट स्पेसिफाइड होती है, जिस डेट पे वो मेच्योर हो जाएगा उसको आपको रीपे करना पड़ेगा, और it need to be pay out on the same date whatever is mentioned to the debentures holder, right? So in that case, if a company does not have a good financial position on that particular period जो debentures में लिखा हुआ है, still they need to pay out them, so it is very difficult for the company. Redeemable debentures के केस में. Next is, each company has certain borrowing capacity. With the issue of debentures, the capacity of company to further borrow fund reduces. Now debentures को in simple way if we try to understand, this is also one way of loan only. what we are doing, हम debentures एक issue तो कर रहे हैं सर्टिफिकेट, राइट, लेकिन हमें उसको क्या करना पड़ रहा है, रीपे करना पड़ रहा है. सो दिस इज़ बेसिकली इफ़ अ कंपनी वी ऑलरेडी हैज़ borrowed money as a form of debentures, so they cannot or they will have very less way to borrow out from funds by another sources. Now this is about the debenture, which is called as the long term sources for raising fund with a fixed paying amount. Now we will be going through with the another sources of raising funds for the business, and that will be commercial bank. Now when we talk about commercial bank is play a very important role, or it has a very important position it as they provide fund for different purpose as well as for different time period. It means when we talk about commercial bank is not only providing funds for a long period time or short period time. The restriction was not with the commercial bank. Commercial bank provide funds for different work and even for a different time period also. So that was the benefit for raising funds from commercial bank. Now, when bank extend loan to firm of all size and in many ways like cash credit, overdraft, term loans, purchase, discounting of bills and issue of letter of credit, these all are a different instrument by which the commercial bank used to raise funds for the organization. Now the rate of interest charged by bank depend on various factors such as the characteristics of the firm and the level of interest rate in the economy. It means the rate at which or the interest rate which is charged by the commercial bank for extending loan to the enterprises will depend on the financial position of a company also, plus the interest rate which is going on into the economy also. The benefit of taking or raising loan or raising funds from commercial bank is that the loan which we have raised from the commercial bank can be paid either in lump sum or it can be paid in a installment also. Now let's see the different advantage of commercial bank. So the first advantage if you are raising funds from commercial bank is that bank provide timely assistance to the business by providing fund as and when needed by it. Now if we suppose we are raising funds by debentures, it is not possible that the time when we required funds on the same time we will be able to sell our debentures also, or we will be able to arrange funds by debentures also, because public कब debentures लेना चाह रही है, that is completely in the mood of public, right? तो हो सकता है जब आपको फंड्स की ज़रूरत हो तब आप अपने डिवेंचर्स को इशू ना कर पाओ. But in case of commercial bank, the good thing about it is that whenever bank can provide anytime loan to the enterprise whenever the funds are needed by them. Next is secrecy of business can be maintained as the information supplied to the bank by the borrower is kept confidential. Now this basically say that at the time of taking loan from the commercial bank, there are certain information which is supposed to be shared from the person also or the enterprise also who is taking or who is applying for loan, right? So bank used to keep out all the details very secret with him or with the person who is taking or who is borrowing the loan. Next is formalities such as issues of prospect underwriting are not required for raising loan from a bank. Thus, therefore, it is an easier source of fund. At the time of taking or raising loans from bank or raising funds from bank, we don't need to go through with lots of legal formalities like we don't need to issue prospect. अगर हम public से subscribe करते हैं, public deposit के through funds को raise करते हैं तो हमें prospect को issue करना पड़ता है, अपनी financial condition को show up करना पड़ता है, right? हमें underwriting देनी पड़ती है that we will be able to repay it. But in case of bank, it doesn't require. So it is very easy way of getting funds from bank. Next is loan from bank is a flexible source of finance as the loan amount can be increased according to the bank business need and can be repaid in advance when funds are not needed. Now this is basically commercial bank is called as a flexible source of raising funds. Why? Because according to our need we can increase the amount of taking loan from commercial bank or we can also decrease it. At the time of repaying it also, if we does not need money we can able to prepay the amount. Now let's see the different limitations about commercial bank. The first limitation of commercial bank is that funds are generally available for short period and its extension or renewal is uncertain and difficult. Now when we talk about commercial bank, one side they have the advantage, certain advantage, in the another side they have the drawbacks also, that the fund which are available from the commercial bank that is available for a particular period of time only and that is basically a short period of time only, right? Or if we want to extend that period, it is very difficult to extend or renew it. Next is bank make detailed investigations of the company affairs, financial structures and may also ask for securities of assets and personal securities. This make the procedure of obtaining funds slightly difficult. If we are taking loan or if we are raising funds by commercial bank, the bank need to give certain investigation or bank need to did certain investigation about the person or about the company affairs like the financial position of the company, like the securities which the company are having, the assets which the companies are having, the personal assets or the company assets. So this become little bit difficult for raising funds from commercial bank. Next is, in some cases difficult terms and conditions are imposed by bank for the grant of loan. For example, restriction may be imposed on the sale of mortgage good, thus making normal business working difficulties. Now this is the another drawback of commercial bank or raising fund from commercial bank, that if you are raising funds from commercial bank, there are certain terms and policies which are used by commercial bank which make the borrowing of fund difficult here. Like if we are granting loan, we need to keep out certain mortgage or certain securities to the bank, and even they does not allow to use these mortgage securities in a working manner. So it become difficult to take out or to raise funds from the commercial bank, or which work as a withdraw, which work as a dislimitation for the raising funds. Now students, we will be not going through with the concept of financial institutions and international financing. Now we will be just talking about the different factors which is affecting the choice of sources of raising funds. Now this is here. Now factor affecting the choice of sources of fund. Factor affecting the choices of sources of fund basically say that when finance is need for a business, it is needed for different type. It is needed for long term period of time. The funds are also required for short term period of time. It is also required for a fixed period of time. It is for a fluctuating period. So the business firm need to different type of source for raising fund. Short-term borrowing offer the benefit of reduced cost due to reduction of the ideal capital, but the long-term borrowing are considered a necessity on many ground. It means at the time of raising funds for our business, if we require funds for our business, at the time of choosing the sources, यानी business के funds के requirement को complete करने के लिए हमें कौन से source को use करना है, उसको choose करने से पहले वी नीड टू गो थ्रू विद लॉट्स ऑफ फैक्टर. हमें बहुत सारे फैक्टर्स देखने पड़ते हैं. लेट्स सी व्हाट आर द डिफरेंट फैक्टर विच अफेक्ट द चॉइसेस ऑफ सोर्स ऑफ फंड. So the first is cost. Now there are two type of cost, the cost of procurement of fund and the cost of utilizing the fund. Both these costs should be taken into account while deciding about the sources of fund that will be used by an organization. Now which source or what is that source by which I will raise fund for my organization, so that depend on the cost of the sources also. इन द सोर्सेज वी हैव टू टाइप ऑफ कॉस्ट. एक होता है आपका कॉस्ट ऑफ प्रोक्यूरमेंट, यानी फंड को रेज करने के लिए आपने क्या खर्चे लगाए हैं और उस फंड को यूटिलाइज करने में कैसे खर्चे लगे हैं. ये दो कॉस्ट होती हैं जो हमें ध्यान देनी पड़ती हैं किसी भी सोर्स को सेलेक्ट करने से पहले. नाउ एनी सोर्स विच विल हैव मोर प्रोक्यूरमेंट ऑफ फंड्स, जिसको यूज़ करने के लिए हमें ज़्यादा प्रोक्यूरमेंट के फंड कॉस्ट लगेगी और कॉस्ट ऑफ यूटिलाइजिंग द फंड विल बी मोर, वी विल गो थ्रू विद लेस in that source, and we will go through with that source way. There will be cost of procurement and the cost of utilizing of fund will be less. Next is financial strength and stability of operation. The financial strength of business is also a key determinant in the choice of source of fund. Business should be in sound financial position so as to be able to repay the principal amount and interest on borrowed amount. When the earning of the organization are not stable, fixed, charge fund like preferential shares and debentures should be carefully selected as these add to the financial burden of organization. Now the second thing or second factor which affect the choice of source is the financial strength and stability of operation. If any organization is there whose financial condition is good, whose stability of earning is fixed, they know कि उनको इतना profit आना ही आना है, so they can go through with the option of preferential shareholders, they can go through with the option of debentures for raising funds, because उनको एक fixed amount देनी होती है and they are knowing कि उनकी condition अच्छी वो pay कर पाएंगे. But if a organization is there whose financial condition is not good, जिसकी जो earning हो वो fix नहीं है future के लिए, so they will not prefer for debentures and preferential shareholders because they will be not able to give a fixed amount of money to them. Next is form of organization and legal status also. The form of business organization and status influence the choice of source of raising money. A partnership firm, for example, cannot raise money by issue of equity share as they can be issued only by a joint stock company. Now, what kind of form of organization is there and what is the legal status? अगर कोई एक ऐसी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है जिसका फॉर्म ऑफ ऑर्गेनाइजेशन उसको अलाउड कर रहा है कि वो ओनरशिप को एक्सटेंड कर सकती है, सो दे कैन गो थ्रू विद द इक्विटी शेयर, वो इक्विटी शेयर्स के थ्रू फंड्स को रेज कर सकते हैं. लाइक पार्टनरशिप फॉर्म ऑफ ऑर्गेनाइजेशन जो होती है, दे कैन नॉट रेज मनी बाय इशूइंग द इक्विटी शेयर, बिकॉज यहाँ पे क्या होता है, देर आर 3-4 पार्टनर्स आर दे, इट इज़ वर्किंग एज अ जॉइंट स्टॉक कंपनी. So one partner cannot decide that how they will raise out the fund. So the form of organization also depend or also have a one very important factor of at the time of selecting sources of fund. Next is purpose and time paid. Now business should plan according to the time paid for which the fund are required. अगर शॉर्ट टर्म के लिए फंड्स की ज़रूरत है तो वी कैन गो थ्रू विद द कमर्शियल पेपर, वी कैन गो थ्रू विद द ट्रेड क्रेडिट, यानी जहाँ पे लो रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट होंगे, यानी मनी मार्केट के इंस्ट्रूमेंट के थ्रू. इफ़ वी रिक्वायर्ड फंड्स फॉर अ लॉन्ग पीरियड ऑफ टाइम, दैट टाइम वी नीड टू गो थ्रू विद द कैपिटल मार्केट के इंस्ट्रूमेंट को, लाइक ओवरड्राफ्ट हो गया, आपके बैंक्स हो गए. नाउ रिस्क प्रोफाइल. रिस्क प्रोफाइल बेसिकली से दैट बिजनेस शुड इवेल्युएट ईच ऑफ द सोर्स of finance in term of the risk involved. Like if any source which have more risk, the business should go through with less in that. A source by which there is less risk, business can go through with more in that source. Next is control. A particular source of fund may affect the control and power of the owner on the management of a firm. If any organization is there who don't want to dilate their control, who don't want to give power, who don't want to share powers of the organization to other people, so in that case they cannot select or they cannot go through with the equity share for raising funds, because अगर equity के through अगर fund raise करेंगे, so what will happen, the control power क्या हो जाएगी, dilate हो जाएगी. So this controlling factor also play a very important role at the time of selecting the sources of fund. Next is effect on credit worthiness. The dependency of business on certain sources may affect its credit worthiness in the market. For example, issue of secured debentures may affect the interest of unsecured creditor of the company and may adversely affect their willingness to extend further loan as credit to the company. Now, when we talk about effect on credit worthiness, what is the credit condition of a company, that also play a very important role as the time of deciding the sources of fact or sources of fund. If we are giving, for example, if we are issuing the secure debentures, अगर हम debentures issue कर रहे हैं जो कि secure debentures है, secure debentures means which no matter what is the financial condition of a company, we will repay the amount with the interest amount within a particular specified date. So if we are going through with more secure debenture, it is going to affect the unsecured creditor of the company, right? So this all factors we need to keep in our mind. Next is flexibility and easy. Flexibility or easy basically say that we have lots of choices for the sources of funds raising. Fund raise करने के लिए हमारे पास में बहुत सारी choices होती हैं, right from banks to financial institutions and other instrument also. Now we have to go through with that sources which is more flexible, जहाँ पे time to time आप अपने लोन की और funds के amount को increase decrease कर सको. We can able to change the period and date also according to our demand, and where we can easily raise the fund. So that is also a very important factor at the time of raising funds. Next is tax benefit. Tax benefit basically say that we should go through with that sources of fund by which interest amount or which rate are deductible from the profit, यानी जो कि कैसे हों, tax deductible हों. Like for example, various sources may also be weighted in the term of their tax benefit. For example, while the dividend on preferential share is not tax deductible, अगर हम preferential shares के थ्रू में फंड्स को रेज कर रहे हैं तो वो टैक्स डिडक्टेबल नहीं होता है, तो एक बर्डन हो गया वो. बट इंटरेस्ट पेड ऑन डिवेंचर्स एंड लोन इज टैक्स डिडक्टेबल, यानी अगर हमने लोन लिया है और अगर हमने डिवेंचर इश्यूज़ किए हैं, उसके थ्रू हमने फंड्स को रेज किया है, तो जो इश्यूज़ डिवेंचर्स पे हम जो इंटरेस्ट पे करते हैं और लोन पे जो हम इंटरेस्ट पे करते हैं, ये सब क्या होते हैं, टैक्स डिडक्टेबल होते हैं. तो ये क्या हो रहा है, यहाँ पे आपके ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के टैक्स को रिड्यूस कर रहा है. सो दीज आर बेसिकली the different factor which we need to keep in our mind at the time of deciding that from which source we have to raise fund for our organization. Children, with this we have finished with this chapter, and From the next video we will be starting the another chapter.